Today we're going to be looking at Lime Crime in the color Sushi. So first thing you may notice is that my swatches are labeled 1 through 12. I do quickly just want to say that is not synonymous with hair levels. I do a lot of different video clips and pictures and such throughout the video, so the numbers just help us keep track of each swatch. Also, these are human hair swatches, but they are not virgin hair swatches, so they've been chemically colored, bleached, or treated at some point in their lifetimes. 1 is green, 2 is gray, 3 is a natural red, 4 is a very soft black, and then 4 to 11 is a range that goes to platinum blonde, and then 12 is like a more toned version of number 11. So to start, I will take the color directly from the container and I will apply it to each swatch. And then some people do like to dilute their dyes, so I will do a diluted version at the bottom of each swatch. Please keep in mind, everyone's hair is different, which means everyone's hair will take color differently, plus different screens and monitors can make colors look a little different. So please just use my video as a reference for how this could possibly maybe turn out for you. For the diluted section, we're going to do a 4-to-1 ratio. So that's going to be 1 part of our dye to 4 parts diluter. Now, if you're unsure what diluter is, it essentially is something that lightens the color of a semi-permanent dye. Now, each brand usually will sell their own version of a diluter that will keep the same consistency. And you can always use that if you're more comfortable. But to keep things fair between all of the different brands I do on my channel, I always just use a plain white conditioner as my diluter. I'm gonna let these sit for about 3 hours to let the color fully absorb into the swatches. I will then rinse it out, and when it's dry, I will meet you back here and we can do some comparisons. Since this did take over the darker swatches as well, I would like to remind everyone again that my swatches are not virgin hair. So if you have hair that's like, brown and it's never been dyed before, there's a really high chance this won't work for you because virgin hair usually is not as porous as hair that has been chemically treated somehow, so it won't absorb color as easily. I also noticed when diluting this color, it did lighten up really fast. I did my normal 4-to-1 ratio, but usually when a color lightens up fast, that means it's not as pigmented. So definitely keep that in mind. Always do a strand test as well when doing your own hair color at home. So 1 was originally green. It actually does look kind of peachy on top. Obviously, if you compare it to any of the other swatches, you can still see a lot of the green coming through. So if you're trying to cover a green, I would say that you need to have probably at the very least lighter green hair than my swatch. But I'm happy to see that it still did take. The bottom half definitely looks green still, but it looks a little bit more on the warm side instead of how it looked previously, maybe a little bit more ashy than it did before as well. 2 was the gray. I think I would say that's probably the most cool toned swatch out of the rest of them. Sometimes the 12 can look cool toned as well, but the 2 looks the most cool toned, so it leans a little bit more pinky than it does orangey, but even still it is still quite like warm for a pink. and it did turn out a little bit darker looking as well compared to the lighter swatches. The bottom half, I'd say, still looks pretty gray, just has a little bit more of like a pinky undertone than it did before. 3 was the natural red. I think colors like this usually look really nice over natural red because it kind of saturates the natural red a little bit more, so it still has an almost natural look but a little less dull than it was before. And I would say there was a similar result on 5, 6, and 7. 5 is a lot darker, so it almost just looks like the undertone of the brown changed to be a little bit more warm toned. I guess 6 is similar. It's not as brown as 5, but I think I see more pinky colors coming through on number 7, so 6 is like right in between there. And then the diluted section for all of them, there might be a slight difference from before, but compared to the top, it still looks pretty much like it did before. I'm sure there is a difference. 4 was a soft black. Now in this lighting, I don't see a huge difference, but I swear I could see a little bit of a difference before. Again, if you have naturally soft black hair, I do not think this would work. You would probably need something that's a lot more pigmented to make a difference. But if you have your hair dyed as like a soft black, there is a chance you could change the undertone of the black a little bit with a semi-permanent color. I would say number 8 is where the peachiness starts to come through the most, where the hair looks a lot less brown. And then it gets lighter, obviously, as the hair swatches get lighter, with number 11 looking the brightest. And then 12 is the toned swatch, so it looks a little bit more cool toned than the platinum blonde, but not quite as cool toned as the gray. So it leans a little bit more pink, but still very warm in undertone. I do think if you have non-virgin hair that this would be a good color to maybe do like a rose gold, depending on the kind of look you're going for. It's obviously a lot more pigmented and peachy on the direct eye portion, but you can actually still see a little bit of those warm tones coming through on the diluted sections as well. And it almost has kind of a natural look on the diluted sections for the slightly darker blondes, I would say. The number 11 one is just a lot more saturated looking, same way it is on the direct eye portion as well. So as for comparisons, Lime Crime actually has a color that I've done already called the Neon Peach, and I wanted to compare that first. So this is comparable to number 12, 11, 10, and 9. So in more like natural house lighting, they actually have very, very similar undertones. We're under a ring light right now, so you can actually see a lot more of the brightness coming through for the Neon Peach. My UV light actually is not working at the moment, so I can't look at Sushi under a black light, but it doesn't say that it's supposed to be UV reactive, whereas the Neon Peach definitely is. And you can actually see that in person too. Like the Neon Peach definitely has a brighter, almost like neon quality in comparison, but again, in the natural, like not direct lighting, they have very similar undertones. So I would almost say that Sushi is like a non-neon version of the Neon Peach. I don't have any comparisons that are going to be perfectly similar, so I decided to go with Uberliss in the color Peach Hydrangea as my next comparison. This is comparable to number 12, 11, 10, and 9. So I would say if we're looking at brightness, they are both about the same. I would say like depth, they're not much lighter or darker than each other, but the Peach Hydrangea definitely is more on the pinky end of the spectrum, whereas Sushi seems to lean a little bit more on the orange side. So I think either of them could work for a rose gold depending on the vibe that you're looking for. Again, always do a strand test though. If rose gold is the intention, the next comparison I was considering was Iro Iro in the color rose gold actually. That one leaned a lot more on the golden end, but it was also a lot lighter. So it was much closer to the diluted section in lightness. So you would have to have very light hair for that one. But again, it was a little bit more on the goldish side in comparison. So I would say Sushi was kind of right in the middle if we're comparing it to Peach Hydrangea, which is a little more pinky, and rose gold being a little bit more golden. So now I'd like to get into the before and after clips. Those, as well as everything past this point in the video, will all be done in natural lighting. I hope my video helped. If you have a request, I do have a link below to a Google form you can fill out. Just remember, I only do brands that do not test on animals. Thank you so very, very, very much to my patrons, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.